I found a positive test in our bathroom trash. When I confronted her, she smirked. Relax, you're not the father anyway. I just told her to get out. She packed her bags and left with a smirk. But that smirk disappeared when she learned none of the other men wanted to be the father either. So my life blew up on a Tuesday. It's funny how it's always a Tuesday. It was trash night, and I was doing the final sweep of the house, gathering up the little waste baskets from the bathrooms. I pulled the bag out of the master bathroom can, and there it was, right on top, a pregnancy test, and it was positive. 2 distinct blue lines staring up at me like an accusation. My heart did this weird lurch, a mix of shock and, I'll admit, a little bit of excitement. My girlfriend Amanda and I had been together for 4 years. We lived together. We talked about the future, marriage, kids, the whole deal. I thought this was it. A surprise, but maybe a happy one. I walked into the living room, holding the little plastic stick like it was a winning lottery ticket. Amanda was on the couch, scrolling through her phone, a glass of wine on the table next to her. That should have been the first red flag. "Hey," I said, my voice shaking a little. "I found this in the trash." She looked up from her phone, saw the test in my hand, and her expression didn't change. No surprise, no fear, no happiness. Nothing. She just took a slow sip of her wine. "And?" she said, sounding completely bored. "And?" I repeated, confused. "It's positive. Are we?" That's when she did it. A slow smile spread across her face, a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. It was the kind of look that instantly makes you feel small, like you're the butt of a joke you don't get. "Relax," she said, setting her wine glass down with a soft click. "You're not the father anyway." The floor just dropped out from under me. The air went thin. I stood there, staring at her, trying to make the words make sense in my head. They didn't. 4 years. We lived in my house. I paid for most of our life together while she pursued her passion projects that were just a drain on our finances. I thought we were building a life, but in that one sentence, she had demolished all of it. I don't know what she expected. Tears, yelling, begging. I think she wanted a scene. She thrives on drama, but I didn't give her one. Something inside me, the part that would have been devastated, just went cold and quiet. It was like a switch flipped. The hurt was there deep down, but it was immediately buried under a layer of ice. I looked at her, at the smirk still playing on her lips, and I saw her for the first time. Not the woman I loved, but a stranger. A cruel, calculating stranger who was enjoying this. I dropped the pregnancy test on the coffee table. When I finally spoke, my voice was steady, ice cold. "Get out." Her smirk faltered for a second. "What?" "You heard me," I said. "Pack your things. I want you out of my house, tonight." She scoffed, recovering quickly. "You can't be serious. You're kicking me out?" "Just like that." "You just told me you're pregnant with another man's child," I said. "What is there to talk about? You have an hour." I turned and walked out of the room, went into my home office, and shut the door. I could hear her start to move around, slamming drawers, making loud, angry phone calls in the other room. I didn't care. I sat at my desk and just stared at the wall, my mind working faster than it ever had before. This wasn't just a breakup. This was a declaration of war. She thought she had all the power, that she could drop this bomb and walk away to her new life with her new man, leaving me in the rubble. She had no idea what a huge mistake she had just made. She underestimated me. Everyone always does. They see the quiet guy who fixes things and runs a small landscaping business, and they assume he's simple. They're always wrong. An hour later, she knocked on the office door. I opened it. She had 2 suitcases packed, her purse on her shoulder. The smirk was back, bigger than ever. She looked confident, triumphant even. "Fine," she said. "I'll leave. I was getting tired of this place anyway. My friend is on her way to pick me up." I just nodded. "Don't bother trying to call me," she added, tossing her hair back. "My real partner is going to take care of me now. We're going to have a real life, not this boring small-town existence." She expected me to crumble. I just stepped aside to let her pass. As she walked out my front door for the last time, she turned and gave me one last, pitying look. That look said it all. She thought she had won. She thought she was upgrading. She had no idea she had just walked out of the best situation she would ever have, and into a nightmare of her own making. A nightmare I was going to personally construct, piece by piece. The game was on. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since Amanda walked out of my life with a smirk and a baby that isn't mine. The first few days were quiet, too quiet. The house felt huge and empty, but I didn't let myself wallow. That's what she would have wanted. Instead, I got to work. My first post got a lot of traction, and the support was unreal. A lot of you guys told me to just move on and forget her. I hear you, but that's not how I'm wired. When someone burns down your house, you don't just walk away. You find out who they are and you make sure they never have the matches to do it again. My first problem was simple. I had no idea who the father or fathers might be. Amanda was good at hiding her tracks, but she made one mistake. She was still logged into her cloud account on our shared tablet. We'd had it for years, and she probably hadn't used it in months, completely forgetting it was still linked to everything. It was a goldmine. Texts, photos, social media messages she thought she'd deleted. It took me 2 sleepless nights, fueled by coffee and a cold rage, to piece together the timeline of her betrayal. It wasn't just one guy, it was 3. She had been running a rotation, a whole stable of men she was juggling behind my back. Each one served a different purpose. It was like she was building a portfolio of potential upgrades. First, there was Derek, the muscle. A personal trainer from the expensive gym she joined 6 months ago, the one I paid for, naturally. Based on the texts, their relationship was purely physical. He was all about gym selfies, protein shakes, and flexing in the mirror. Amanda's messages to her friends about him were brutal. She called him her dumb but fun toy and made fun of his intelligence constantly. But to his face, she was all about his amazing discipline and incredible physique. Next was Julian. The money. A married 50-something partner at the marketing firm where she did some freelance work. He was her ticket to the high life. He paid for fancy dinners, weekend trips to the city, and expensive gifts she told me were freelance bonuses. Their texts were all about discretion. He was terrified of his wife finding out. Amanda played the part of the exciting, forbidden escape for him, but in her messages to her friends, she called him the old man with the checkbook, and was already planning how to leverage the relationship for a full-time job at his firm. Finally, there was Leo, the artist, a musician she'd met at some gallery opening. He was her emotional support affair. Their messages were full of bad poetry and talk about their deep spiritual connection. He was broke, living in a tiny studio apartment, but he made her feel understood, or so he thought. To her friends, she described him as her pathetic but sweet project, and laughed about how he thought they were soulmates. Reading through it all, I didn't feel sad. I felt sick. She wasn't just cheating, she was using these men, playing a role for each of them, just like she had been with me. The pregnancy wasn't an accident, it was a strategy. She was going to pick the best option from her portfolio and cash in. My plan started to form. It wasn't about revenge on them, they were idiots. But they were being played too. My goal was to simply show each of them the real Amanda, the one I had just discovered. I was going to give them the information they needed to make an informed decision. I had a feeling none of them would choose to be the father to her child once they knew the truth. I started with Derek. This one was easy. I created a new, anonymous Instagram account. I found a picture of one of Derek's gym buddies, a guy he was always posting workout videos with. I sent the friend a simple message. You should know your boy Derek is being played. His new girl is seeing other guys. Then, to that same friend, I sent a few carefully selected, anonymous screenshots of Amanda's texts to her friends, the ones where she called Derek a brainless meathead. Guys like that are loyal to their gym bros, and their egos are fragile. I knew the message would get to Derek, and I knew it would hit him where it hurt. Julian was trickier. He was a powerful man, and his wife was apparently even more so, coming from a wealthy, influential family. Directly exposing the affair could have legal blowback for me. I had to be smarter. I compiled a small, anonymous package. It didn't contain love letters or pictures. It contained something far more damaging. Printouts of Amanda's secret credit card statements, showing tens of thousands in debt. It also included a few of her texts to friends where she talked about her plan to lock down the old man, and how his wife was a boring old hag. I didn't send it to Julian. I sent it to his wife, at her office. I didn't include a note. The documents spoke for themselves. A woman like that wouldn't tolerate a messy, indebted mistress who was a potential threat to her family's reputation and finances. She would see Amanda not as a romantic rival, but as a liability to be eliminated. Leo was the last piece of the puzzle. He was all about emotion and authenticity. The truth would be what destroyed his fantasy. I found a mutual acquaintance on his social media, another artist in the local scene. Through another anonymous account, I sent her a message. I think Leo should know the truth about his new muse, Amanda. She's not who he thinks she is. I attached the screenshots of Amanda mocking his art, calling him pathetic, and laughing about their supposed spiritual connection. I knew the art community was small and gossipy. The information would find its way to him. With all the seeds planted, all I had to do was wait. I spent the next week working, hitting the gym, and methodically removing every trace of Amanda from my house. I packed up her clothes, her books, her little trinkets, and put them all in storage. I changed the Wi-Fi password. I blocked her on my phone and all social media. I was creating a clean slate. The first sign that my plan was working came about 10 days later. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Amanda. Why is Derek not answering my calls? Did you say something to him? I didn't reply. A few days after that, another text. My freelance contract with Julian's firm was terminated. What did you do? Still, I said nothing. Her confident smirk was starting to crack. She had no idea that her carefully curated options were all about to evaporate, leaving her completely and utterly alone. The real storm hadn't even hit yet. Final update, it's done. I'm sitting on my back deck, watching the sunset. The house is quiet, and for the first time in a month, it feels like my own again. The last 2 weeks have been a whirlwind, but not for me. For Amanda, it's been a complete and total collapse. After I planted the seeds of truth with her 3 boyfriends, I just sat back and watched. I didn't have to do anything else. Amanda's own character and the predictable reactions of the men she'd chosen did all the work for me. The first one to officially bail was Derek, the gym trainer. His friend showed him the texts. The idea that a woman was calling him a dumb toy while he thought he was the prize was too much for his ego. He apparently confronted Amanda in the middle of the gym, in front of everyone, yelling at her for playing him. He made a huge scene, called her a liar, and told her to lose his number before storming off to lift something heavy. Amanda was publicly humiliated. Her first safety net was gone. Next was Leo, the artist. The gossip spread through the art scene like wildfire. He got the screenshots and was, according to the mutual acquaintance, completely heartbroken. He believed they had a special connection. To find out she was mocking him and his passion behind his back destroyed his romantic fantasy. He sent her a long, rambling email about truth and betrayal, wished her well, and then blocked her on everything. He was too sensitive for her games. Safety net number 2? Gone. The final and most spectacular implosion was Julian, the married partner. His wife received my anonymous package. She didn't confront him with tears and accusations. She was far more dangerous than that. I found out later she hired her own private investigator after getting the package. It only took him a day to confirm everything. She was a silent operator. She called her lawyers, her father, and the other partners at Julian's firm. Within 48 hours, Julian was facing a full-blown crisis. His wife was filing for divorce and threatening to expose his financial indiscretions to the board. The firm's partners, fearing a scandal, put him on an immediate leave of absence. Julian, in a complete panic, cut Amanda off completely. He saw her as the source of all his problems. He had his lawyer send her a cease and desist letter, warning her to never contact him again. He even offered her a one-time payment of $5,000 for her silence, which she was apparently desperate enough to accept. Her golden parachute had turned into a lead balloon. Safety net number 3, vaporized. This all happened over the course of about a week. I knew it was working because the texts from Amanda started coming in, fast and furious. They went from angry and accusatory to confused and panicked, and finally, to utterly desperate. She had nowhere to go. The friend she was staying with had kicked her out after Amanda couldn't pay her share of the rent. I heard she tried calling her parents, but they told her she'd made her bed and it was time to lie in it. She had no job, no income, and 3 men who now wanted nothing to do with her. The final confrontation happened last night. There was a knock on my door. It was her. The confident smirk was long gone. She looked exhausted, her eyes were red and puffy, and she was visibly pregnant now. She looked like a ship that had been wrecked at sea. She started crying the moment I opened the door. She was sorry. She'd made a terrible mistake. She didn't know what she was thinking. She'd been confused. It was the classic non-apology apology. "I have nowhere else to go," she sobbed. "I'm scared. Can I please just come home?" I didn't invite her in. I just stood in the doorway. "Home?" I asked. "This isn't your home anymore, Amanda. You made that clear." "But the baby," she pleaded. "What am I gonna do?" "I don't know," I told her. "You told me I wasn't the father. I believe you." "Who is the father?" "I don't know for sure," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "It could be any of them. But none of them want anything to do with me. They all hate me." "Yes, they do," I said. "And do you know why?" She just shook her head, tears streaming down her face. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I stepped back into the house and came back with a single manila folder. I opened it and showed her the contents. Printouts of her texts, the screenshots I'd sent, the anonymous emails, a timeline of her lies. "They hate you because I showed them the real you, Amanda," I explained, keeping my voice completely flat. "I didn't lie. I didn't invent anything. I just gave them the truth. The things you said, the way you used them, the way you used me. They didn't leave you because of me. They left because of you." She stared at the papers, her face a mask of horror. The reality of what I had done, of how completely I had outmaneuvered her, finally sank in. She had thought she was the player, but she had been a pawn in a game she didn't even know we were playing. "You destroyed my life," she whispered. "No," I said, closing the folder. "You destroyed your life. I just turned on the lights so everyone could see you do it." I had already talked to a lawyer. He had drafted an agreement. I went back inside and got it, along with a pen and a cashier's check for $10,000. "This is a one-time payment," I told her, holding out the documents. "It's more than you deserve, but it will help you get on your feet. In exchange, you sign this. It says our relationship is over. You will remove your remaining things from storage within 30 days, and you will never contact me again for any reason. It also states, for the record, that you acknowledge I am not the biological father of your child, and have no legal or financial responsibility for it." She looked from the check to the papers to my face, searching for something. Pity? Remorse? There was nothing there for her. She had burned that bridge, and the one before it, and the one before that. She was on an island of her own making. She took the pen, her hand shaking, and signed the papers. I gave her the check. "Goodbye, Amanda," I said, and I closed the door. I watched through the peephole as she stood on my porch for a long time, just staring at the check in her hand. The confident, smirking woman who had walked out a month ago was gone forever. In her place was a person who had finally been forced to face the consequences of her own actions. I don't know what will happen to her, and honestly, I don't care. My revenge wasn't about destroying her. It was about reclaiming my life and my dignity. It was about showing her that the quiet, simple man she so casually discarded was smarter, stronger, and far more capable than she ever imagined. And as I turned away from the door and walked back into my quiet, peaceful house, I knew one thing for sure. I had won.